his stance on Palestine, even after the Judicial Conduct Committee's censure. Desai, who was appointed as Legal Services Ombudsman after his retirement in 2020, was found to have been out of line in signing a BDS statement condemning Israeli policies in his capacity as a High Court judge.
I make no apologies for that. I stand unapologetically in support of the struggle of the Palestinian people. If anything, my support represents the highest norm in ethical standards.
In an order written by the Supreme Court of Appeals, Justice Nambita Dambuza, the JCC warned Desai not to participate or become involved in political controversy in the future unless it is necessary to do so in the exercise of judicial function.
If I do compromise myself ethically, then I'll step down as Ombud. But I don't see that in any way affecting. It in fact enhances my stature to be able to stand up against apartheid Israel.
Judge Desai has described the ruling as a gagging order. He has hinted at appealing the ruling, but some legal voices say he should avoid being defined.
As we understand it, the judge has indicated an intention to appeal the ruling by the Judicial Conduct Committee. In our view, it would have been preferable for him to restrain or restrict himself from commenting on the issue until he follows the appeal process and gets the order by the Judicial Conduct Committee to be reversed. Because at this time, it creates the unfortunate impression that he is in defiance of a legally authorized body, or he is trying to litigate the issue in the public arena.
The South African Zionist Federation couldn't be reached for comment. Mulimane Moto, SABC News, Pretoria.
And to unpack this a bit more further, we are now joined by Judges Matter Research and Advocacy Officer Mbekezeli Benjamin, and he joins us via our Zoom link. Mbekezeli, thank you so much for joining us here on the late edition. I know that you've commented somewhat on the story, but perhaps let's start here. As Judges Matter, what is your take when it comes to the ruling we saw by the JCC?
Good evening, Bali, and good evening to the viewers at home. Well, our stance is very simple, which is that our judges, by all means, should try as much as possible to speak through their judgments, first and foremost. But of course, we do understand that judges are members of society, and they may hold political, religious, or any other view, just like any other member of society. However, the office that they hold of being a judge does restrain them a little bit in terms of the kinds of issues that they may be involved in. And the Code of Conduct is very clear that a judge may not involve themselves in political activity or political parties or even a political controversy. So that is the restriction that it puts there. Now, coming back to the complaint against Judge Desai, there were actually 7 grounds of complaint that were filed against him. Actually, there were 8, not even 7. There were 8 grounds of complaint. 7 of those grounds were dismissed. Only 1 was upheld. And the only one that was upheld really was not about him having a view about the human rights issues anywhere in the world or being a champion of the Palestinian struggle. The main issue really was about his active signing of a banner or petition that had political implications. So it was a political petition, and that's the only thing that the JCC said was out of line. For the rest, the JCC completely dismissed the complaint by the SA Zionist Foundation. So there is an important point to make. And secondly, Judge Desai himself says he doesn't agree with the JCC finding, so the finding by the Judicial Conduct Committee. And so he's taking it on appeal. All that we are saying is that while that appeal process is unfolding, it's better for him to wait and restrain his comment, and ultimately he might very well be found to have been correct and the JCC ruling will be set aside. But until that unfolds, it really is unhelpful for the judge to be so outspoken and in sort of come across as being in defiance of a ruling by the Judicial Conduct Committee.
And Mbekezeli, maybe let's come to that ruling. Some are saying, well, it's a slap on the wrist. What is your view when it comes to the ruling that he received? Do you think that it should have been a bit more harsh? He has been asked to step away from the political terrain and not comment any further.
Well, it's always a difficult one. You'll recall, I think a year or two ago, Justice Mogoeng was also censured or disciplined by the Judicial Conduct Committee for comments that he had made on almost the same issue, but on different sides, I suppose. But the real issue is really, where does one draw the line when it comes to the kinds of public or political comments that a judge may make publicly? There is no black line that is written that we can always refer to. So each case is decided on its own merits. In our view, this particular case, I think, was a fitting punishment in that they said the judge is warned not to participate again. They didn't say that he must not hold the views that he holds, which are commendable, and other people may praise him for those views. But all that JCC said was that he must try to restrain himself so that he doesn't find himself caught up in political controversy.
And what are the ramifications of comments of this nature when it particularly comes, to judges? Because they hold a very important role in our society. Why is it important for judges to step away from that political terrain?
Yeah, so that is also a point that the Judicial Conduct Committee makes in its rulings, that the judges in our society and the judiciary as an institution holds a really important, or plays a really important role as the arbiters of disputes that people have, and also the guardians of the Constitution somewhat. So at all times, judges must be seen to have the highest level of integrity. Their independence must never come under question. But at the same time, there's a realization that judges are not, they don't exist in their own world. So they are part of our communities, and so they will hold views that other members of communities may have. However, in the way that they express those views, they must just make sure that it doesn't undermine the integrity and the independence of the judiciary.
And you've heard in our report, it seems as if Judge Desai seems unbothered, by this ruling by the JCC. What do you make of the fact that he is appealing this matter? I know you touched on it briefly, but what do you make of the fact that he seems unbothered, by his comments, and he seems as if he's being gagged in a way from not expressing himself?
Well, it's easy to see that he disagrees with the ruling, and maybe a lot of people might also say that he is absolutely correct to disagree with the ruling. However, once he has now indicated an intention to appeal the ruling, that means that he has indicated an intention to use the legal mechanisms to challenge the ruling. So then what should really follow is that he should wait until those processes unfold, because we hold him in very high esteem. He's someone who's made a huge contribution in human rights in our country. He was a judge for 25 years, and so he is very well respected in our society. And so one would expect him, holding such high esteem, to also abide by the processes that other people are encouraged to follow when they disagree with the rulings of courts or tribunals. And so in this situation, what we would call for is for him to just abide by the appeal process. Yes, he does disagree with it. Ultimately, he might very well find that an appeal body will say, no, this was an incorrect ruling, and so he will be vindicated. But until that moment comes, it really is unhelpful for him to sort of be saying, no, I'm unmoved and I'm bothered. That's not the kind of attitude that one would expect from a really senior judge.
Mbekezeli Benjamin, thank you so much for your time. That is Mbekezeli Benjamin. He is from Judges Matter, a researcher, just talking about that issue when it comes to the matter that has been before the JCC surrounding Judge Siraj Desai.